The house looked exactly the way Ryan Bennett remembered it. Cream-colored walls, manicured lawn, the oak tree he'd planted before leaving, now tall enough to shade half the driveway. 5 years had passed since he'd stood on this doorstep, suitcase in hand, promising his mother he'd come back soon. He never did, until today. Ryan exhaled slowly, fingers tightening around the handle of his carry-on. The flight from Singapore had been long, but that wasn't why his chest felt tight. It was the silence, the too-perfect lawn, the curtains drawn shut in the middle of the afternoon. Something felt wrong. He'd called ahead 3 times. Sophie didn't answer. His mother didn't pick up either. Probably busy, he'd told himself. Probably out shopping or getting lunch together. But now, standing here in the driveway of the house he'd bought with his own sweat and sleepless nights, Ryan couldn't shake the unease crawling up his spine. He pulled out his key. The lock turned smoothly. The door swung open. And the first thing that hit him wasn't the sight. It was the smell. Bleach. Strong, chemical, almost suffocating. Like someone had scrubbed every surface within an inch of its life. The living room was spotless. Too spotless. No family photos on the mantel. No warm mess of magazines or coffee mugs. Just cold, sterile perfection. "Sophie?" Ryan called out, stepping inside. No answer. "Mom?" Still nothing. He moved deeper into the house, his footsteps muffled by the plush carpet he'd paid for. The kitchen was immaculate, marble countertops gleaming, not a dish out of place, but something was off. The fridge hummed too loudly in the silence. Ryan's eyes drifted to the breakfast nook, the small table where he used to sit with his mother every Sunday morning, eating her homemade blueberry pancakes. The table was there, but only 2 chairs. His pulse quickened. "Mom?" he called again, louder this time. A faint sound, shuffling, hurried, came from somewhere below, the basement. Ryan's brow furrowed. His mother hated the basement. She used to call it the cold room, always complaining about the dampness and poor lighting. Why would she be down there? He crossed the kitchen and opened the basement door. The staircase descended into shadow. A single bare bulb flickered weakly at the bottom. And there, hunched over a laundry basket twice her size, was his mother, Evelyn Bennett, but not the woman he remembered. She looked small. That was the first word that came to Ryan's mind. Small, shrunken, like someone had taken the vibrant, strong woman who used to bake pies for the whole neighborhood and drained the life out of her, one day at a time. Her hair, once thick and chestnut brown, now hung limp and gray around her face. Her clothes, a faded t-shirt and sweatpants, were too big, hanging off her bony shoulders. Her hands, red and raw, gripped the edge of the basket as she bent to lift it. "Mom?" She froze. Her entire body went rigid, like a deer caught in headlights. Slowly, painfully slowly, she turned to face him, and Ryan's breath caught in his throat. Her eyes, God, her eyes. They were hollow, empty, the kind of emptiness that comes from too many days of silence, too many nights of tears no one saw. She stared at him like she didn't recognize him, or worse, like she was afraid to. "Ryan?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Mom, what are you doing down here?" He started down the stairs, but she flinched, and raised a trembling hand. No, don't come down. I'm just finishing the laundry." "The laundry?" Ryan's voice cracked. "Why are you doing laundry in the basement? Where's Sophie? Why didn't anyone answer my calls?" Evelyn's lips parted, but no words came out. She looked past him, toward the top of the stairs, her face twisted in something between fear and desperation. And that's when Ryan heard it. Footsteps. Light, quick, confident. "Ryan? Oh my God, Ryan!" Sophie appeared at the top of the stairs, all smiles and bright eyes and perfectly styled blonde hair. She was wearing a white sundress, makeup flawless, like she'd just stepped out of a magazine. "Baby, you're home!" She rushed down the stairs, nearly pushing past Evelyn, and threw her arms around Ryan's neck. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming? I would have picked you up from the airport." Ryan stood stiff in her embrace, his eyes fixed on his mother, who had already turned back to the laundry, head down, shoulders hunched. "I tried calling," Ryan said flatly. 3 times. "Oh God, I'm so sorry. My phone died. You know how I am with charging it." She laughed, bright and careless, and kissed his cheek. "But you're here now. That's all that matters." Ryan gently pulled away from her. "Why is Mom in the basement?" Sophie's smile didn't falter. "Oh, she insisted. You know how she is, always wanting to help. I told her she didn't have to, but she loves staying busy." "Loves it?" Ryan turned back to his mother. "Mom, is that true?" Evelyn didn't look up. Her hands moved mechanically, folding a towel with slow, practiced precision. "Yes," she whispered. I like to help." Her voice was dead. Now, if you're already hooked by what Ryan is walking into, hit that like button and subscribe, because what he's about to uncover in his own home will shatter everything he thought he knew. Trust me, you'll want to see how this unfolds. Ryan didn't believe her. He didn't believe the words. He didn't believe the way her hands shook as she folded. He didn't believe the way she refused to meet his eyes. But Sophie was already steering him back up the stairs, her hand warm and insistent on his arm. "Come on, babe, let's get you settled. You must be exhausted. I'll make you something to eat. Mom can finish up down here." Ryan let himself be guided up, but his mind stayed in that basement, in the cold, in the dim light, in his mother's hollow eyes. By the time they reached the kitchen, Sophie was already pulling out pans, chattering about his trip, asking about Singapore, laughing at all the right moments. But Ryan wasn't listening. His eyes scanned the room with new focus. The kitchen, the living room, the hallway. Everything was too perfect, too clean, too controlled. And then he saw it. On the counter, near the sink, a small stack of dishes, 3 plates, 2 forks, 2 glasses. Only 2. "Sophie," Ryan said quietly, "where does Mom eat?" Sophie paused mid-sentence, her smile flickering for just a fraction of a second. "What do you mean?" "I mean, where does she eat her meals? Does she eat with you?" "Of course she does." Sophie turned back to the stove, her voice light. "We eat together all the time." "Then why are there only 2 plates?" Silence. Sophie's hands stilled over the pan. Then slowly, she turned to face him, smile back in place, bigger, brighter, almost aggressive. "Ryan, sweetheart, you just got home. You're tired, jet-lagged. Let's not start picking apart every little thing, okay?" But Ryan was already moving, past her, down the hall, toward his mother's bedroom. The door was closed. He opened it and stopped dead. The room was empty, not just empty, stripped. No bed, no dresser, no curtains, just bare walls and a faint smell of disinfectant. "Where is her room?" Ryan's voice was low, controlled, but his hands were shaking. Sophie appeared behind him, arms crossed, still smiling. "We moved her downstairs. She said she preferred it. Quieter, more private. Downstairs. To the basement." "To the guest room in the basement, yes." Ryan turned to face her, and for the first time in 5 years, he looked at his wife and saw a stranger. "Show me." Sophie led him down the narrow staircase without another word, her heels clicking against the wooden steps with practiced confidence. Ryan followed, his unease growing with each descending step into the cold, dim space below. The basement guest room was a lie. Ryan stood in the doorway, his jaw clenched so tight his teeth ached. This wasn't a room, it was a cell. A narrow single mattress sat on a metal frame in the corner, covered with a thin, threadbare blanket that looked like it came from a donation bin. No headboard, no nightstand, just a mattress and a single pillow, flat and yellowed with age. The walls were bare concrete. The small window near the ceiling was covered with a piece of cardboard, blocking out what little natural light could reach this depth. A single bare bulb hung from the ceiling, casting harsh shadows across the cramped space. In the opposite corner sat a plastic bin, the kind you'd use for storage, filled with folded clothes. His mother's clothes. Ryan recognized the blue cardigan she used to wear every Sunday to church. It was draped over the edge of the bin, wrinkled and forgotten. There was no closet, no mirror, no warmth, just cold, damp air and the faint smell of mildew creeping through the walls. This? Ryan's voice was barely above a whisper, but it cut through the silence like a blade. This is where my mother sleeps? Sophie leaned against the doorframe, arms still crossed, her expression carefully neutral. Ryan, it's not as bad as it looks. She has everything she needs. Bed, privacy, her own space. Her own space? Ryan spun around, and Sophie actually took a step back. This is a basement storage room. There's no heat down here, no proper ventilation. You put my mother in a dungeon. That's dramatic. Sophie's voice hardened, the sweet facade cracking just slightly. She chose this. I offered her the guest room upstairs, but she said she didn't want to be a burden. A burden. Ryan repeated the word slowly, tasting the bitterness of it. My mother. In the house I bought. With the money I send every single month. And you're telling me she feels like a burden? Sophie's eyes flashed with something. Irritation. Maybe defensiveness, but she quickly smoothed it over with another smile. Look, I know this looks bad, but you don't understand the full situation. Your mom, she's gotten difficult, stubborn. She insists on doing things her way, and sometimes that means making choices that don't make sense to us. Difficult how? She doesn't communicate. She isolates herself. Honestly, Ryan, I've been worried about her. I think she might be depressed. Ryan stared at his wife. Really stared. At the perfectly applied makeup, the designer sundress, the manicured nails, the casual, almost bored way she discussed his mother's suffering. And something inside him shifted. He didn't explode. He didn't yell. Instead, he turned away from Sophie and walked slowly around the room, taking in every detail. The concrete floor, cold even through his shoes, the damp spots on the wall near the window, the single cheap lamp sitting on the floor because there was nowhere else to put it. His mother had been living like this. For how long? Where is she now? Ryan asked quietly. Probably still doing laundry, Sophie said, her tone clipped. Like I said, she likes to stay busy. Ryan nodded slowly. I want to talk to her, alone. Sophie's smile tightened. Ryan, you just got home. Can't we have one nice evening before you start? Now, Sophie. She flinched at his tone. For a moment, the mask slipped completely, and Ryan saw something raw and ugly flash across her face. But then she composed herself, shrugged, and turned on her heel. Fine, I'll be upstairs. Dinner's in 20 minutes. Her heels clicked sharply against the concrete as she climbed the stairs, each step echoing like a countdown. Ryan waited until he heard the door close above. Then he sank onto the edge of the mattress and put his head in his hands. 10 minutes later, Evelyn appeared in the doorway, laundry basket balanced on her hip. She froze when she saw Ryan sitting on her bed. Ryan, you shouldn't... Sit down, Mom. I need to finish... Mom, please. Something in his voice made her hesitate. Slowly, she set the basket down and perched on the very edge of the mattress, as far from Ryan as possible. Her hands twisted together in her lap, knuckles white. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Ryan didn't know where to start. How do you ask your mother if she's being abused? How do you confront 5 years of absence and guilt and blind trust that turned out to be catastrophically misplaced? Mom, he finally said, his voice rough. Tell me the truth. How long have you been sleeping down here? Evelyn's shoulders hunched. It's fine, sweetheart. Really. I have everything I need. That's not what I asked. She bit her lip, eyes fixed on the floor. A while. How long is a while? Does it matter? Yes, it matters. It matters to me. Evelyn's hands trembled. For a moment, Ryan thought she might actually tell him, but then she shook her head, wrapping her arms around herself like a shield. I don't want to cause trouble, she whispered. You just got home. Sophie's been looking forward to seeing you. I don't want to... Mom, look at me. She didn't. Mom, please. Slowly, painfully, she lifted her eyes to meet his, and what Ryan saw there nearly broke him. Fear, shame, exhaustion so deep it seemed to have settled into her bones. "What happened to your ring?" Ryan asked suddenly. Evelyn's right hand instinctively covered her left. I lost it." "You lost Dad's wedding ring?" "It just slipped off one day. I looked everywhere, but—" "Mom, you never took that ring off. Not once. Not even when you were gardening or cooking. You said it was the one piece of him you'd never let go." Tears welled up in Evelyn's eyes, but she blinked them back furiously. "Things change, Ryan. People change." "What did she do?" "Who?" "Sophie. What did she do to you?" "Nothing. She's been very kind." The lie hung in the air between them, transparent and fragile. Ryan leaned forward, elbows on his knees, trying to keep his voice steady. "Mom, I need you to be honest with me. Has Sophie hurt you?" "No." "Has she threatened you?" "Ryan, has she made you feel unsafe in this house?" Evelyn's breath hitched. Her lips pressed into a thin line, and for a moment Ryan thought she might finally crack. But then she stood abruptly, grabbing the laundry basket with shaking hands. "I need to fold these before dinner," she said, her voice hollow. "Sophie doesn't like it when things aren't put away." "Mom, please, Ryan, just let it go." She hurried out of the room before he could stop her, her footsteps quick and uneven on the stairs. Ryan sat alone in the cold basement, staring at the empty doorway. Let it go? No. He was just getting started. Dinner was a performance. Sophie had set the dining table with their best china, the set Ryan had shipped from Italy as a housewarming gift 3 years ago. Candles flickered in crystal holders, wine glasses gleamed under the chandelier. Classical music played softly from hidden speakers. It looked like a scene from a home decor magazine, except for one glaring absence. "Where's Mom?" Ryan asked as Sophie set a plate of herb-crusted salmon in front of him. "Oh, she already ate," Sophie said breezily, settling into her chair across from him. "She said she wasn't feeling well. I think all the excitement of you coming home wore her out." Ryan glanced toward the kitchen. "She ate already? I didn't see her." "She took a plate to her room. You know how she is. Likes her privacy." Ryan set down his fork slowly. "Sophie, since when does my mother eat alone in the basement?" Sophie's smile faltered for half a second. "Since she started preferring it that way." "That's not an answer." "Ryan." Sophie reached across the table, her hand covering his. Her touch was warm, familiar, but it made his skin crawl. "I know this is hard for you. You've been gone a long time. Things have changed. Your mom and we've had to figure out our own rhythm. And honestly, it's been difficult." "Difficult how?" Sophie sighed, withdrawing her hand to pick up her wine glass. "She doesn't appreciate anything I do. I cook, I clean, I try to include her in everything, and she just withdraws. It's like she doesn't want to be part of this family." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Or maybe she doesn't feel like she's part of the family anymore." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means her bedroom is a concrete box in the basement. It means she's doing laundry at 7 o'clock on a Thursday night. It means she flinched when I tried to talk to her." Sophie's expression hardened. "Are you accusing me of something?" "Ryan, I'm asking you to explain why my mother looks terrified in her own home." "She's not terrified, she's depressed. I've been telling you this in my emails, but you were too busy with your important projects in Singapore to pay attention." The accusation stung because it was partially true. Ryan had been distracted, consumed by work. He'd sent money, thousands of dollars every month, convinced that financial support was enough. But money couldn't stop cruelty. Money couldn't stop humiliation. Money couldn't stop someone from systematically erasing another person's dignity, one day at a time. "I want to see the security footage," Ryan said suddenly. Sophie froze, wine glass halfway to her lips. "What?" "The security cameras. I had them installed before I left. 4 cameras, front door, back door, kitchen, and living room. I want to see the last 6 months of footage." Sophie set down her glass carefully, her expression unreadable. "The system crashed." "Crashed?" A few months ago, lightning strike or power surge or something. The tech guy said the hard drive was fried. And you didn't tell me? I didn't think it was important. Nothing ever happens here anyway. Ryan studied his wife's face, the perfectly applied foundation, the steady gaze, the slight upturn of her lips that wasn't quite a smile. She was lying. He didn't know how he knew, but he knew. "I'll call the security company tomorrow," Ryan said evenly. "See if they have cloud backups." Sophie's smile didn't waver. "Sure, honey, whatever makes you feel better." But her knuckles were white around the stem of her wine glass. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He lay in the master bedroom, his bedroom, in his house, staring at the ceiling, while Sophie breathed softly beside him. The silk sheets felt too soft, the mattress too comfortable. Everything about this room felt wrong, while his mother slept on a metal frame in a concrete basement. At 2 a.m, Ryan gave up on sleep. He slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Sophie, and padded quietly down the hall in his bare feet. The house was dark, silent. He made his way to the kitchen, intending to get water, but stopped when he saw a faint light coming from beneath the basement door. His mother was still awake. Ryan descended the stairs slowly, each step careful and deliberate. At the bottom, he found Evelyn sitting on her mattress, knees pulled to her chest, staring at nothing. She didn't notice him at first. "Mom?" She jumped, pressing a hand to her chest. "Ryan, God, you scared me. What are you doing down here?" "I could ask you the same thing. It's 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep." Ryan sat down on the cold concrete floor, leaning back against the wall. "Me neither." They sat in silence for a moment. Evelyn's fingers twisted together anxiously, like she wanted to say something, but didn't know how. Finally, Ryan spoke. "I know something's wrong, Mom. I can see it. I can feel it. And I need you to trust me enough to tell me what's been happening here." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "Ryan, please, don't ask me to do this." "Do what?" "Choose. Between you and her, between peace and war. I'm tired, sweetheart. I'm so tired. I just want to get through each day without making things worse." "Worse how? What does she do to you?" Evelyn shook her head, tears now streaming freely down her face. "It doesn't matter. It matters to me. I'm old, Ryan. I'm a burden. I know that. And I'm grateful, so grateful that you've given me a place to stay. I don't want to ruin your marriage because I'm too sensitive or too—" "Stop!" Ryan's voice cracked. "Mom, stop. You are not a burden. You are my mother. And this isn't just a place to stay. This is your home. Or it's supposed to be." Evelyn covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. And Ryan made a decision. He couldn't confront Sophie. Not yet. Not without proof. Because if he accused her now, she'd deny everything, and his mother would be left even more vulnerable than before. No. He needed to be smart about this. He needed evidence. And he needed to make sure that when the truth finally came out, there would be no escape, no excuses, and no mercy. "Mom," Ryan said quietly, "I need you to do something for me." Evelyn looked up, wiping her eyes. "What?" "I need you to act normal, like nothing's changed, like I haven't noticed anything. Can you do that?" "Why?" "Because I'm going to fix this, but I need time, and I need you to trust me." Evelyn stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." Ryan reached out and squeezed her hand. It felt like bones wrapped in paper. The next morning, Ryan woke with purpose. Sophie was already up, humming in the kitchen, the smell of fresh coffee and bacon drifting through the house. When he emerged from the bedroom, she greeted him with a bright smile and a kiss on the cheek, like the conversation from last night had never happened. "Morning, sleepyhead! I made your favorite, blueberry pancakes and crispy bacon, just like old times." Ryan forced a smile. "Smells great. Is Mom up?" "Oh, she's outside, doing some gardening, I think." Sophie waved vaguely toward the back door. "You know how she loves her flowers." Ryan moved to the window and looked out. His mother was on her hands and knees in the far corner of the yard, digging in the dirt with a small hand trowel. She wore the same faded sweatpants from yesterday, dirt already streaking up her arms. The morning sun beat down on her back, and even from this distance, Ryan could see the exhaustion in every movement. "It's barely 7:30, Ryan said quietly, "and it's already 80 degrees out there." Sophie shrugged, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. Just 2. She insisted, said she wanted to get it done before it got too hot. "I told her to wait, but you know your mom. Stubborn as a mule." Ryan watched his mother wipe sweat from her forehead with the back of her hand, leaving a smear of dirt across her face. "I'm going to help her," he said, setting down his coffee. No, sit, eat. She'll be insulted if you interrupt her. You know how proud she is." Sophie guided him gently but firmly back to the table. "Besides, I want to hear all about Singapore. I feel like we barely got to talk last night." Ryan sat, but his eyes kept drifting back to the window. To his mother, bent and broken under the weight of something he still couldn't fully see. After breakfast, Ryan excused himself, claiming jet lag, and retreated to the home office, a small room on the 2nd floor that he'd set up before leaving for Singapore. The moment the door clicked shut, he pulled out his laptop. First priority, the security cameras. He logged into the system remotely, pulling up the account he'd set up 5 years ago. The login screen appeared, and he typed in his credentials. Error. Invalid password. Ryan frowned. He tried again, slower this time, making sure each character was correct. Error. Invalid password. His pulse quickened. He clicked Forgot Password and entered his email. No account found with this email address. Ryan sat back, staring at the screen. The account had been deleted. Not disabled, not suspended, deleted. Someone had gone into the security system and erased every trace of his access. And there was only one person who could have done that: Sophie. Ryan's jaw clenched. He opened a new browser window and searched for the security company's customer service number. 5 minutes later, he was on the phone with a technician. "Hi, yes, I'm calling about a system I had installed at my home about 5 years ago. The account seems to have been deleted, and I need to recover the footage. I'm sorry, sir, but if the account was deleted, that means all associated footage would have been permanently erased as well. Our system doesn't maintain backups of deleted accounts due to privacy policies." "So there's no way to recover anything?" "Not through us, no. However, if your system had local storage, like a hard drive or SD cards in the cameras themselves, that footage might still be accessible if the hardware wasn't damaged." Ryan thanked him and hung up. Local storage. The cameras had SD card slots. Ryan remembered that detail specifically because he'd opted for the upgraded model that could record locally and to the cloud. If Sophie had deleted the account but hadn't thought to check the cameras themselves, he grabbed his keys. The cameras were easy to locate, one above the front door, one covering the back patio, one in the corner of the kitchen, and one in the living room. Ryan started with the kitchen camera. It was mounted high in the corner, angled to capture the entire space. He dragged a chair over, climbed up, and carefully unscrewed the casing. The SD card slot was empty. His stomach dropped. He moved to the living room camera. Empty. Front door. Empty. Back patio. Empty. Every single SD card had been removed. Ryan stood in the living room, fists clenched, breathing hard through his nose. Sophie had been thorough. She'd deleted the cloud account, removed the physical storage, and probably destroyed whatever evidence existed. Almost. Ryan's eyes drifted to the bookshelf in the corner, the one his mother had insisted on bringing from her old house. It was an antique piece, heavy oak with carved details, and it held her collection of old photo albums and novels. And sitting on the 3rd shelf, partially hidden behind a row of books, was a small security camera. Ryan's heart skipped. He'd forgotten about that one. It wasn't part of the main system. It was a cheap, battery-operated nanny cam he'd bought on a whim and given to his mother before leaving, just so she could keep an eye on the house if Sophie ever went out. His mother had set it up on the bookshelf, angled toward the kitchen and living room, and Sophie had no idea it existed. Ryan crossed the room in 3 strides, pulled out the books, and grabbed the small camera. His hands shook as he opened the battery compartment. The micro SD card was still there. He exhaled sharply, relief flooding through him. Carefully, he removed the card and slipped it into his pocket. Now he just needed to see what was on it. Back in the office, Ryan locked the door and inserted the SD card into his laptop. The file directory populated slowly, hundreds of video files organized by date and time. The camera had been recording for months, maybe longer, storing everything in short 10-minute clips. Ryan's cursor hovered over the most recent files. Then he scrolled back. 3 months, 6 months, a year. He picked a file at random from 8 months ago and clicked play. The video quality was grainy, but clear enough. The timestamp read 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. The kitchen came into view. His mother stood at the sink, washing dishes. She moved slowly, methodically, her shoulders hunched. Then Sophie entered the frame. She was on her phone, laughing at something, not even looking at Evelyn. She opened the refrigerator, grabbed a bottle of sparkling water, and turned to leave. But as she passed Evelyn, she said something. Ryan turned up the volume. "Move any slower, we'd be here all day. Seriously, Evelyn, it's just dishes. How hard can it be?" His mother didn't respond, didn't even look up. Sophie rolled her eyes and walked away, her voice trailing off. Useless. Ryan's hands tightened on the edge of the desk. He clicked on another file, this one from 6 months ago, late evening, the living room. His mother sat on the couch reading a book. Sophie entered, carrying 2 glasses of wine. She sat down on the opposite end of the couch, deliberately far from Evelyn. A friend appeared in the doorway, a blonde woman Ryan didn't recognize. "God, Soph, your house is gorgeous," the friend said, settling into an armchair. "Thanks, Ryan's money, obviously, but I did all the decorating." Sophie laughed. "Well, most of it. Some of this old stuff is Evelyn's. I keep telling her we should donate it. But she's weirdly attached to junk." The friend glanced at Evelyn, who pretended not to hear. "She lives here?" "Unfortunately." Sophie took a sip of wine. Ryan insisted. "I mean, I get it. She's his mom. But honestly, it's like having a really depressing roommate who never leaves." The friend laughed. "That sounds awful." "It is. And the worst part? She acts like she's doing me a favor by cooking and cleaning, like, hello, you're living here rent-free. The least you could do is make yourself useful." Evelyn's hands trembled slightly, but she kept her eyes on her book. Sophie didn't even lower her voice. Ryan felt something cold and sharp twist in his chest. He closed the file and opened another one, and another, and another. Each clip was worse than the last. Sophie mocking his mother to friends. Sophie snapping at Evelyn for taking too long to fold laundry. Sophie eating dinner with guests while his mother ate alone in the kitchen, standing at the counter because there weren't enough chairs. Sophie laughing, actually laughing, when one of her friends asked if Evelyn was the help. By the time Ryan reached the files from 2 months ago, his hands were shaking so badly he could barely control the mouse. He clicked on a file dated 9:23 p.m. The kitchen. His mother stood at the stove, stirring something in a pot. Sophie entered, talking on her phone. I know, but I can't just kick her out. Ryan would lose his mind." Sophie paused, listening. Then she laughed. "Oh my God, right? I swear, sometimes I forget she's even here. She's so quiet, like a little mouse." Another pause. "Well, she better be grateful. If it were up to me, she'd be in a nursing home by now." Evelyn's hand stilled on the spoon. Sophie noticed. "What? You have something to say, Evelyn?" His mother shook her head. "No, nothing." "That's what I thought." Sophie walked away, still laughing into the phone. Evelyn stood frozen at the stove for a long moment. Then, very slowly, she set down the spoon, braced her hands on the counter, and bowed her head. Her shoulders shook. She was crying, silently, so quietly that if Ryan hadn't been watching, he never would have known. The video ended. Ryan sat in the dark office, staring at the frozen frame of his mother's grief, and something inside him broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, completely, irrevocably. He spent the rest of the day going through footage, compiling, organizing, time-stamping every cruel comment, every dismissive gesture, every moment of humiliation. By evening, he had a folder with over 40 video clips, undeniable proof, but proof wasn't enough. Not yet. Because Ryan wasn't just angry, he was calculating. Sophie had spent 5 years systematically destroying his mother's dignity. She'd done it carefully, quietly, convinced that no one was watching, and now Ryan was going to dismantle her life with the same cold precision. But first, he needed to understand the full scope of what he was dealing with. He needed to know if there was more. That night at dinner, another elaborate meal that his mother wasn't invited to, Ryan played the role of the oblivious husband perfectly. He complimented Sophie's cooking. He laughed at her jokes. He asked about her day, her friends, her plans for the weekend. And the entire time, he watched her, really watched her. The way she smiled just a little too wide, the way her eyes never quite reached the warmth of her expression, the way she touched his arm, his shoulder, his hand, always physical, always claiming ownership. She was good. Ryan had to admit that. If he hadn't seen the footage, if he hadn't witnessed his mother's fear firsthand, he might have believed this performance. He might have dismissed his instincts as paranoia or jet lag. But he had seen, and now he couldn't unsee. "So," Sophie said, cutting into her steak with delicate precision, "I was thinking we should throw a party this weekend, welcome you home properly, invite some friends, maybe some of your old colleagues who are still in town." "A party?" Ryan set down his fork. "Yeah, it'll be fun. I can handle all the planning. Your mom can help with the food prep and—" "No?" Sophie blinked. "No? I don't want a party. I just got back. I need time to settle in." "Oh." Sophie's smile faltered. "Okay, sure. No party. We can do something low-key instead. Maybe just a dinner with a few close friends?" "Maybe later." "Right, later." Sophie's fingers tightened around her fork. "You seem tense, babe. Is everything okay?" Ryan met her eyes. "Everything's fine." "You sure? Because you've been kind of distant since you got back." "Just tired." "Like you said, jet lag." Sophie nodded slowly, but her gaze lingered on him a moment too long. She was suspicious. Good. Let her be suspicious. Let her lie awake tonight wondering if he knew. Let her second-guess every word, every action. Because Ryan was done playing defense. Now he was hunting. Late that night, after Sophie had fallen asleep, Ryan slipped out of bed again. But this time, he didn't go to the basement. He went to Sophie's home office, a small room on the first floor that she'd claimed as her personal space. The door was locked. Ryan pulled out his keyring and found the master key he'd kept from when the house was first built. It slid into the lock smoothly, clicking open with barely a sound. Inside, the office was pristine, organized, everything in its place. Ryan moved to the desk and opened the laptop sitting there. Password protected. He tried a few common combinations, her birthday, their anniversary, her mother's name. Nothing worked. Then he tried one more, his own birthday. The screen unlocked. Ryan's jaw tightened. Of course she'd use his birthday. It made her look devoted, thoughtful, the perfect wife who kept her husband close even in small details. He opened her email first. Hundreds of messages, most mundane, shopping confirmations, salon appointments, brunch plans with friends. But then Ryan found a thread with a contact saved as M. He clicked it open, and his blood ran cold. Sophie. God, I can't wait until Ryan's contract ends. 5 more months of pretending to care about that woman's feelings is going to kill me. M. LOL, why don't you just tell him to put her in a home? Sophie. Because then I look like the bad guy. No. Better to let him come back and see how difficult she's gotten. Then it's her fault, not mine. M. You're evil. I love it. Sophie. I prefer the term strategic. Ryan scrolled further back. Sophie. She asked about her wedding ring again today. I told her she probably lost it in the garden. She actually believed me. M. Wait, you took her ring? Sophie. Pawned it last month. Got $800. Not bad for a piece of sentimental junk. M. Sophie, that's cold. Sophie. Please, she's lived here for free for 5 years. Consider it back rent. Ryan's vision blurred. He kept scrolling. Months of messages. A constant stream of mockery, complaints, and casual cruelty. His mother's pain reduced to entertainment. Her dignity treated as a joke. Ryan's hands shook as he pulled out his phone and started taking photos of the screen. Every message, every conversation, evidence. Cold, undeniable, unforgivable evidence. When he finished, he carefully closed the laptop, left the office exactly as he'd found it, and locked the door behind him. Then he walked down to the basement. His mother was asleep, curled on her side, one arm tucked under her head like a child. Ryan knelt beside the mattress and very gently pulled the thin blanket up over her shoulders. "I'm sorry, Mom," he whispered. "I'm so sorry I left you here, but I promise you, this ends soon." Evelyn didn't wake, but in her sleep, her fingers curled around the edge of the blanket, holding on like it was the only thing keeping her tethered to the world. Ryan stood, his jaw set, his resolve hardening into something sharp and unbreakable. Sophie wanted to play games? Fine. But she just made the worst mistake of her life. Because Ryan Bennett didn't just play games, he ended them. Ryan didn't sleep that night. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his mother's face, the hollowness in her eyes, the tremor in her hands, the way she flinched at the sound of footsteps. By dawn, he'd made a decision. This wasn't going to be a confrontation. It wasn't going to be a heated argument where Sophie cried and apologized and promised to change. Those kinds of confrontations ended with second chances, with couples counseling, with working through it. No, this was going to be an execution. Methodical, calculated, complete. Sophie had spent 5 years building a comfortable life on his money while torturing his mother. She'd done it with smiles and charm and careful manipulation, convinced she'd never be caught. Ryan was going to take everything from her, and she would never see it coming. The first step was establishing a timeline. Ryan spent the morning in his office, door locked, creating a detailed spreadsheet. Every video clip organized by date, time, and severity. Every text message cataloged and cross-referenced. Bank statements pulled from online accounts showing the money he'd sent home versus the money Sophie had actually spent on his mother's care. Or rather, hadn't spent. The numbers told a damning story. Ryan had sent $3,500 every month for 5 years. That was $210,000 total. Money meant to ensure his mother lived comfortably, had everything she needed, never felt like a burden. But when Ryan pulled up Sophie's personal spending records, credit card statements she'd carelessly left synced to her email, the picture became crystal clear. Designer handbags, $47,000. Spa treatments and salon visits, $23,000. Luxury vacations with friends, $31,000. High-end restaurants, $18,000. Meanwhile, his mother's expenses? Goodwill clothing purchases, $340 over 5 years. Grocery bills that barely covered basic necessities. Medical appointments, all canceled or rescheduled repeatedly until they simply stopped appearing. Ryan's hands curled into fists as he stared at the screen. His mother hadn't been living off his support. She'd been surviving on scraps while Sophie lived like a queen. He took screenshots of everything, every transaction, every receipt, every piece of evidence that showed exactly where his money had gone. Then he created a second folder. This one was for later. Mid-morning, Ryan heard Sophie's voice calling from downstairs. "Ryan? Honey? I'm heading out for a bit. Lunch with Amanda. I'll be back around 3. He emerged from the office, leaning over the railing. Sophie stood at the bottom of the stairs, purse over her shoulder, looking like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. "Okay," Ryan said evenly. "Have fun?" Sophie hesitated, studying his face. "You sure you're okay? You've been locked in that office all morning." "Just catching up on some work emails. You know how it is." "Right." Sophie's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Well, if you need anything, text me. Oh, and your mom's doing laundry again. I told her she should rest, but you know how she gets." Ryan nodded, maintaining his neutral expression. Sophie blew him a kiss and left. The moment the front door closed, Ryan moved. He descended the stairs quickly, heading straight for the basement. His mother was exactly where Sophie said she'd be, folding towels with slow, mechanical movements. "Mom," Ryan said gently. She looked up, startled. "Ryan, I thought you were working." "I was. I am. But I need to talk to you." He sat down on the concrete steps, keeping his voice low. "And I need you to be completely honest with me." Evelyn set down the towel she was folding, her expression wary. "About what?" "About everything. About how long this has been going on. About what Sophie's really been doing to you." "Ryan, I already told you." "Mom." Ryan's voice cracked slightly. "I found the camera, the one I gave you before I left. I've seen the footage." The color drained from Evelyn's face. "I've seen how she talks to you, how she treats you. I've read her text messages where she brags about pawning your wedding ring." Ryan paused, letting that sink in. "I know, Mom. I know everything." Evelyn's hands began to shake. She pressed them flat against her thighs, trying to still them. "Then why are you asking me to tell you?" "Because I need to know if there's more. Things the camera didn't catch. Things I haven't found yet." For a long moment, Evelyn said nothing. She just sat there, staring at her hands, her breathing shallow and uneven. Then very quietly she spoke. "It started about 3 months after you left. The story came out in fragments. At first, Sophie had been kind, welcoming even. She'd set up the guest room for Evelyn, included her in meals, made small talk about the neighborhood. But then Ryan's first payment arrived, $3,500 deposited directly into the joint account Ryan shared with Sophie. "She changed overnight," Evelyn whispered. "It was like she suddenly realized I was connected to money, your money, and she started making comments about how expensive it was to have an extra person in the house, how much food I ate, how much the utilities went up." Ryan's jaw clenched, but he stayed silent, letting his mother continue. "Then she started asking me to help with things, little things at first, loading the dishwasher, folding laundry. I didn't mind. I wanted to help. I didn't want to be a burden." "You weren't a burden." "That's what she kept saying I was." Evelyn's voice broke. "Every day, Ryan, every single day, she'd find some way to remind me that I was living off your generosity, that I should be grateful, that I owed her." "What about the ring?" Evelyn closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks. "She said it looked old-fashioned, that it clashed with her decor. She asked if she could borrow it to see if her jeweler could modernize it. I said no at first, but she kept pushing, kept saying how much it would mean to her if I trusted her with something so precious." A bitter laugh escaped her. "So I gave it to her, and I never saw it again." Ryan felt something dark and cold settle in his chest. "When did she move you down here?" "About a year ago. She said the guest room was needed for visitors. Then the visitors never came." Evelyn wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I tried to tell myself it wasn't that bad, that I had a roof over my head, that you were working so hard, and I didn't want to burden you with complaints about your wife." "So you suffered in silence." "What else could I do?" Evelyn's voice rose slightly, desperation creeping in. "Call you in the middle of your important job and say, 'Your wife is mean to me,' make you choose between us, ruin your marriage because I couldn't handle some harsh words? Mom, this isn't harsh words. This is abuse." The word hung in the air between them. Evelyn flinched like he'd struck her. "Don't say that." "Why not? It's the truth. Because if I admit it's abuse, then I have to admit I let it happen, that I stayed, that I was too weak to—" "Stop." Ryan moved to sit beside her on the floor, taking her frail hands in his. "You're not weak. You were trapped. There's a difference." "I could have left." "And gone where? You sold your house and gave me everything for the down payment on this place. You gave up your home to help me build mine. You have no income, no savings. Sophie made sure of that. Where exactly could you have gone?" Evelyn had no answer. Because Ryan was right. Sophie had systematically isolated his mother, stripped her of resources, made her completely dependent, and then used that dependence as a weapon. "Mom," Ryan said quietly, "I need you to do something for me." "What?" "I need you to keep acting normal. Don't let Sophie know that I know. Don't change your behavior. Don't confront her. Don't give her any reason to suspect we've talked." Evelyn's eyes widened. "Why? Ryan, if you know, then just make her stop. Tell her you know. Make her leave me alone." Because that won't work. She'll deny it, gaslight me, turn it around. She'll make me think I'm overreacting or that you're exaggerating. I've seen her do it before. She's good at playing the victim. So what are you going to do? Ryan's expression hardened. I'm going to make sure she can never do this to anyone ever again. But I need time. A few more days. Can you give me that? Evelyn searched his face. Then slowly she nodded. Okay. A few more days. Thank you. Ryan squeezed her hands gently. And Mom, I'm going to fix this. I promise. For the first time in what felt like years, Evelyn allowed herself to hope. Over the next 3 days, Ryan became a ghost in his own home. He went through the motions, ate meals with Sophie, watched TV beside her, slept in the same bed, but every free moment was spent gathering evidence. He contacted his lawyer, an old friend from college who specialized in family law. Ryan, what you're describing is elder abuse, Joshua said over the phone, his voice tight with anger. And with the evidence you have, we can build an airtight case, but you need to be smart about this. I'm listening. First, don't confront her. Not yet. If she feels cornered, she might do something drastic. Destroy evidence, hurt your mother, drain your accounts. We need to lock everything down before she knows what's happening. What do you need from me? Joshua outlined the plan. Freeze the joint accounts, document everything, photos, videos, medical records showing his mother's declining health. Get a restraining order ready to file the moment the divorce papers were served. And Ryan, Joshua added, this is going to get ugly. She's going to fight back. Are you prepared for that? I'm prepared for whatever it takes. Good. Because once we start this, there's no going back. Ryan ended the call and immediately began executing the plan. He contacted the bank and transferred all funds from the joint account into a new personal account that only he could access. He left exactly $500 in the joint account, enough for Sophie to not immediately notice, but not enough for her to do any damage. He scheduled a full medical evaluation for his mother with a doctor Joshua recommended, someone who specialized in elder abuse cases and could provide expert testimony if needed. He made copies of every piece of evidence and stored them in 3 separate locations: cloud storage, a physical USB drive hidden in his office, and a third copy sent to Joshua's office. And he installed new cameras, tiny ones, hidden in smoke detectors, behind picture frames, inside air vents. This time Sophie wouldn't find them. This time every moment would be recorded. On the 4th day, Sophie made a mistake. Ryan was in the kitchen when he heard raised voices from the basement. He moved quietly to the door and listened. Told you to wash the floors on your hands and knees, not with a mop. Are you stupid? Sophie's voice, sharp and venomous. I have guests coming over tomorrow, and I can't have them seeing streaks all over the floor. I'm sorry, I thought. You thought? You don't think, Evelyn. That's your problem. You just exist here, taking up space, using up resources. Sophie, please, I'm doing my best. Your best is pathetic. God, I don't know how Ryan turned out even remotely competent with you as a mother. Silence. Then quietly, don't talk about my son. Oh, now you've got a spine? Sophie laughed. A cruel, mocking sound. What are you going to do, Evelyn? Tell on me? Run to Ryan and cry about how mean I am? Go ahead. See if he believes you over his wife. Ryan's hands balled into fists. Every instinct screamed at him to burst through that door and end this right now. But he didn't, because he'd made a promise to himself. This wasn't going to be a moment of rage. This was going to be surgical. Instead, he pulled out his phone and started recording the audio through the door. Sophie continued her tirade for another 5 minutes before storming back upstairs, nearly running into Ryan in the kitchen. Oh, God, you scared me. She laughed, pressing a hand to her chest. How long have you been standing there? Just got here. Everything okay? Sophie's expression smoothed instantly into a smile. Oh, fine. Just had to talk to your mom about the cleaning schedule. She gets confused sometimes, you know, but we worked it out. That's good. Yeah. Sophie moved closer, wrapping her arms around his waist. I'm glad you're home, babe. I missed you. Ryan looked down at his wife, at the woman who'd smiled at him every day while torturing his mother, who'd kissed him goodnight while counting the money she'd stolen, who'd played the perfect wife while building a prison in his basement. "I missed you too," he said, and he felt nothing. That night, Ryan made the final arrangements. The divorce papers were drawn up and ready to file, the restraining order prepared, the bank account secured, a moving company scheduled to arrive in 3 days to pack his mother's belongings, what few she had left, and a small house by the lake, 2 hours away, already purchased under his name alone. It had taken every bit of his savings beyond what Sophie had access to, but it was worth it. His mother would never sleep in a basement again. The last piece of the plan was the hardest. Ryan pulled up his contact list and started making calls, first to Sophie's boss at the marketing firm where she worked, then to her closest friends, the ones who'd laughed along with her cruelty, then to her parents, who lived 2 states away and thought their daughter was the perfect wife. He didn't say much, just sent them all the same message. "There's something you need to see. Please check your email tomorrow morning." The emails were ready, scheduled to send at 8:00 a.m. Each one contained a carefully curated selection of videos, screenshots, and bank statements. Proof that Sophie Bennett wasn't the woman she pretended to be. By tomorrow afternoon, everyone in her life would know the truth, and there would be nowhere left to hide. Ryan stood in the dark office, looking out the window at the quiet suburban street. Somewhere below, his mother slept on a metal frame in a cold basement. For the last time. "One more day, Mom," Ryan whispered to the darkness. "One more day, and this is over." He closed his laptop, turned off the light, and went to bed. Tomorrow, Sophie's carefully constructed world would collapse, and Ryan would be there to watch every moment. Ryan woke before dawn. The house was still dark, silent except for the soft hum of the refrigerator downstairs and Sophie's steady breathing beside him. He lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of what was about to happen. No nervousness, no second thoughts, just cold, crystalline clarity. At 6:00 a.m., he rose quietly, dressed, and went downstairs to make coffee. By 6:30, his mother emerged from the basement, moving like a shadow, already dressed in her faded clothes, ready to begin another day of invisible labor. She froze when she saw Ryan sitting at the kitchen table. "Morning, Mom," he said softly. "Sit down, please." "I need to start breakfast." "Sit down." Something in his tone made her obey. She lowered herself into the chair across from him, hands folded anxiously in her lap. Ryan slid a cup of coffee across the table, made exactly the way she liked it, with cream and 1 sugar. He'd remembered. "In about an hour and a half," Ryan said quietly, "Sophie's entire world is going to fall apart. I need you to stay down in the basement until I come get you, no matter what you hear. Can you do that?" Evelyn's eyes widened. "Ryan, what are you—" "Do you trust me?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Good. Drink your coffee. Then go downstairs and wait. This'll be over soon." Evelyn's hands trembled as she lifted the cup to her lips. For the first time in 5 years, someone had made coffee for her. Someone had told her to sit while they took care of things. She wanted to cry. Instead, she drank in silence, then disappeared back into the basement. Ryan checked his watch. 7:45 a.m., 15 minutes until the email sent. At 7:52 a.m., Sophie's phone began to ring. She was still in bed, but the sound jolted her awake. She grabbed the phone from the nightstand, squinting at the screen. Her mother. "Hello?" Sophie's voice was thick with sleep. Ryan couldn't hear the other end of the conversation, but he watched from the doorway as Sophie's expression shifted from confusion to alarm. "What? Mom? Slow down! What are you talking about?" More frantic sounds from the other end. Sophie sat up straighter, now fully awake. "No, that's ridiculous. Who sent you that? Mom, listen to me." Her phone buzzed with another incoming call, then another, then a flood of text messages, all arriving at once. Sophie's face went white. She ended the call with her mother and started frantically opening messages. Her hands shook as she scrolled, her eyes growing wider with each passing second. Then she turned to look at Ryan. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "What did you do?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "I sent the truth to everyone who needed to see it." "What truth? Ryan, what are you talking about?" "The videos, Sophie, the text messages, the bank statements, every single piece of evidence showing exactly what you've been doing to my mother for the past 5 years. The color drained completely from Sophie's face. You went through my phone?" "I went through everything. Your computer, your emails, your financial records, and I sent it all to your boss, your friends, your parents, and every single person in your life who thought you were someone worth knowing." Sophie's phone rang again. She ignored it, scrambling out of bed. "Ryan, whatever you think you saw, I didn't think I saw anything. I know what I saw. You turned my mother into a slave. You stole from her. You mocked her. You tortured her in her own home while spending my money on designer bags and spa days. That's not... You're twisting things." "Am I?" Ryan pulled out his phone and played a video. Sophie's voice filled the room, crystal clear. "She's so quiet, like a little mouse. If it were up to me, she'd be in a nursing home by now." Sophie lunged for the phone, but Ryan pulled it back. "That's one clip," he said coldly. "I have 40 more, all time-stamped, all cataloged, all sent to everyone you know." Sophie's phone continued to explode with calls and messages. She stared at it like it was a bomb. Then she changed tactics. Her expression crumbled. Tears filled her eyes. She reached for Ryan, her voice breaking. "Baby, please, let me explain. I was stressed, okay? Taking care of your mom was harder than I thought, and I said some things I didn't mean. You pawned her wedding ring." Sophie froze. "The ring her husband gave her, the ring she wore for 40 years. You took it, pawned it for $800, and told her she lost it. I was going to get it back. You weren't. You spent the money on a handbag. I have the receipt." Sophie's tears dried up instantly. Her expression hardened. "Fine. You want the truth? Your mother is exhausting. She's needy and depressing, and she makes this house feel like a funeral home. I did what I had to do to survive living with her. You locked her in the basement. I gave her privacy. You fed her scraps while you ate like a queen. She never complained, because you terrorized her into silence." The words echoed through the bedroom. Sophie's phone rang again. This time she looked at the screen. Her boss. She didn't answer. "They're going to fire you," Ryan said quietly. "Your boss, your clients. Once they see what kind of person you really are, they won't want to work with you. And your friends, the ones you sent those text messages to, bragging about how you treated my mother, they're going to abandon you, because nobody wants to be associated with someone who abuses the elderly." Sophie's breathing quickened. "You can't do this. Ryan, I'm your wife." "Not for long." Ryan pulled an envelope from his back pocket and dropped it on the bed. "Divorce papers. Already filed. You'll be served officially later today, but I wanted you to know now." Sophie stared at the envelope like it was a snake. "You're also being removed from all bank accounts. The house is in my name only, so you have no claim to it. You have 1 week to move out. After that, if you're still here, I'll have you removed by the police." "You can't just kick me out." "I can, and I am." Ryan's voice was ice. "You're also being served with a restraining order. You're not allowed within 500 feet of my mother. If you violate it, you'll be arrested." Sophie's face twisted with rage. "You're ruining my life over some old woman who should be grateful she has a roof over her head." "That old woman is my mother, and you tortured her while I was working myself to exhaustion, trying to give you both a good life." "I gave up everything for you," Sophie screamed. "I stayed in this boring suburb, in this house, babysitting your depressing mother while you were off playing tech genius in Singapore. I deserved something for that." "You deserved a divorce? And now you're getting one." Ryan turned to leave. Sophie grabbed his arm. Desperation replacing the anger. "Wait, Ryan, wait. We can fix this. Therapy, counseling, whatever you want. I'll apologize to your mother. I'll do better. Just don't throw away our marriage over this." Ryan looked down at her hand on his arm, then at her face, the face he'd once loved, now twisted with fear and manipulation. "Do you know what the worst part is?" he said quietly. "It's not even the abuse. It's that you don't actually feel bad about it. You just don't want to face the consequences." He pulled his arm free. "Goodbye, Sophie." Ryan went straight to the basement. His mother was sitting on the edge of her mattress, hands clasped together, eyes red from crying. "It's done," Ryan said. Evelyn looked up. "What happens now?" "Now?" Ryan smiled, a real smile, the first one he'd worn in days. "Now, we leave." "Leave? I bought you a house, Mom, a real one. You gave me everything to help me start my life. Now it's my turn to give you yours. By the lake, just like you always wanted. Small, but it's got big windows, and a garden and a porch where you can watch the sunrise. It's yours, completely yours." Evelyn's lips trembled. "Ryan, you didn't have to—" "Yes, I did, and I should have done it 5 years ago." He held out his hand. "Come on, the movers will be here in an hour to pack your things. Well, to pack what little she left you with. Everything else we'll buy new." Evelyn took his hand, letting him pull her to her feet. For a moment, they just stood there in that cold basement room. Then Evelyn threw her arms around her son and sobbed. Not quiet tears, not hidden grief. Full, wrenching sobs. 5 years of pain and fear and humiliation finally breaking free. Ryan held her, his own eyes burning. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry I wasn't here." "You're here now," she whispered into his shoulder. "You're here now." By noon, the movers had loaded Evelyn's meager belongings into a truck. Sophie had locked herself in the bedroom, ignoring the constant barrage of calls and messages. Ryan didn't care. The locks would be changed tomorrow, and anything she left behind would be donated. He'd already spoken to Joshua, who confirmed that Sophie's boss had called an emergency meeting. Her termination was imminent. Her friends had started posting on social media, vague but pointed statements about toxic people and cutting out negativity. Her parents had left 3 voicemails, each more disappointed than the last. Joshua had also forwarded the medical report that morning. Dr. Rivera's evaluation confirmed what Ryan already knew in his heart: signs of chronic stress, malnutrition, and psychological trauma consistent with prolonged emotional abuse. The documentation would ensure that if Sophie ever tried to rewrite history, the evidence would speak louder than her lies. Sophie Bennett's carefully constructed life was collapsing in real time, and Ryan felt no satisfaction in it, just exhaustion and relief. The house by the lake was everything Ryan had promised: small but warm, bright but cozy, windows overlooking the water, a garden bed ready for spring planting, a porch with 2 rocking chairs. Evelyn stood in the living room, turning slowly, taking it all in. "This is really mine?" she whispered. "All yours, deeds in your name. You never have to worry about anyone taking it from you." Evelyn pressed her hands to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Ryan wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "I'm staying for a while, few weeks at least, until you're settled. Then I'll get my own place nearby. I'm done with overseas contracts. I want to be close, if that's okay with you." "If that's okay?" Evelyn laughed through her tears. "Ryan, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything." Ryan kissed the top of her head. "Just promise me you'll never feel like a burden again. You're my mother. Taking care of you isn't an obligation. It's a privilege." Evelyn turned and hugged him fiercely. Outside, the lake shimmered in the afternoon sun. Inside, for the first time in 5 years, Evelyn Bennett felt safe and loved and free. 3 weeks later, Ryan received a call from Joshua. "Thought you'd want to know. Sophie signed the divorce papers. Didn't even fight it. I think once she realized there was no way back, she just gave up." "Where is she now?" "Moved back in with her parents. Lost her job, obviously. Most of her friends have cut ties. She's essentially been blacklisted in her industry." Joshua paused. "Ryan, I've seen a lot of divorce cases. This was brutal. She earned every bit of it. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just making sure you're okay with how it went down." Ryan looked out the window of his mother's new house. She was in the garden, planting tulip bulbs, humming softly to herself. "I'm more than okay with it," Ryan said. "Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just giving someone back their dignity." Joshua was quiet for a moment. Then, "Your mom's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to still have her." After the call ended, Ryan went outside. Evelyn looked up from her gardening, dirt on her hands, sunshine on her face. She was smiling, really smiling, and Ryan knew, without question, that he'd made the right choice. Some battles aren't won with fists. They're won with truth. 6 months passed like a gentle exhale. Spring turned to summer, and the house by the lake transformed into something that finally felt like home. Evelyn's garden bloomed, tulips first, then roses, then a riot of wildflowers that attracted butterflies and hummingbirds. She'd regained 20 pounds, her hair had grown back thick and healthy, and the hollow look in her eyes had been replaced by something Ryan hadn't seen in years. Peace. She laughed now, real laughter, spontaneous and unguarded. She baked pies again, blueberry, apple, cherry, filling the house with warmth and sweetness. She joined a book club in town, made friends with the neighbor who lived 3 houses down, and started volunteering at the local community center. Ryan had kept his promise. He'd moved into a small apartment 15 minutes away, close enough to visit regularly, but far enough to give his mother the independence she deserved. He'd taken a position with a tech company in the city, fully remote, no travel required. Every Sunday, he drove to the lake house for breakfast, just like old times. On one particular Sunday morning in late September, Ryan sat on the porch with his mother, both of them cradling mugs of coffee and watching the mist rise off the water. "I heard from Joshua yesterday," Ryan said quietly. Evelyn glanced at him. "Oh?" "Sophie tried to contact me through a mutual friend, wanted to know if we could talk." "What did you say?" "I said no." Ryan took a sip of coffee. "There's nothing left to talk about. The divorce is final. She made her choices, and now she's living with them." Evelyn nodded slowly. "Do you ever feel guilty about how it ended?" Ryan considered the question. Did he feel guilty? About exposing the truth? About protecting his mother? About dismantling the life of someone who'd spent 5 years inflicting calculated cruelty? "No," he said finally. "I don't. Because guilt would mean I did something wrong, and I didn't. I just stopped pretending not to see." "Still," Evelyn said softly, "it's a hard thing, to be the one who brings everything down." "Maybe, but you know what's harder?" Ryan turned to look at his mother. "Living with the knowledge that I could have stopped it sooner, that you suffered because I trusted the wrong person and didn't ask the right questions." "Ryan, you couldn't have known. I should have called more, visited more, paid attention more." He set down his coffee mug. "I sent money and thought that was enough, but money can't protect someone from loneliness or cruelty or someone who sees kindness as weakness." Evelyn reached over and squeezed his hand. "You're here now. That's what matters." They sat in comfortable silence, watching a pair of ducks glide across the lake. "You know what I learned from all of this?" Evelyn said eventually. "What's that?" "That silence is the most dangerous thing. Not speaking up when something's wrong, not asking for help when you need it. I thought I was being strong by enduring. But really, I was just being silent." Ryan's throat tightened. "You were scared. That's different." "Maybe, but fear is only powerful when you face it alone." She turned to him, her eyes clear and steady. "You gave me my voice back, Ryan. Not just by getting me out of that house, but by believing me, by seeing me. That's the real gift." Later that afternoon, as Ryan prepared to drive home, Evelyn walked him to his car. "Same time next week?" she asked. "Wouldn't miss it." Ryan hugged her, breathing in the familiar scent of lavender and fresh bread. "Love you, Mom." "Love you too, sweetheart." As Ryan drove away, he glanced in the rearview mirror. His mother stood on the porch of her house, waving, the afternoon sun catching in her silver hair. She looked whole, and that was worth everything. Ryan's story isn't unique. Every day, people suffer in silence, trapped by circumstance, by fear, by someone else's cruelty. And every day, others look away, assuming everything's fine because the surface looks polished. But surfaces lie. Real love, real family, real justice, those things require us to look deeper, to ask uncomfortable questions, to act even when it's hard. Have you ever witnessed something like this? A situation where someone was being mistreated right under everyone's nose? How did you handle it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because sometimes sharing these stories is the first step toward change. And if Ryan's story moved you, hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow we're bringing you another true story of courage, justice, and the power of standing up for the people who can't stand up for themselves. There's an old saying, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. Ryan Bennett didn't do nothing. He didn't rage, he didn't act impulsively, he didn't let emotion cloud his judgment. Instead, he did something far more powerful. He paid attention, gathered truth, and acted with precision. Sophie's downfall wasn't about revenge, it was about restoration, restoring dignity to someone who'd been stripped of it, restoring safety to a home that had become a prison, restoring a voice to someone who'd been silenced. And in the end, that's what real justice looks like. Not violence, not cruelty, not becoming the monster you're fighting against, just truth, spoken clearly and acted upon decisively. Because sometimes the greatest act of love isn't grand gestures or expensive gifts. It's simply seeing someone when the rest of the world has chosen to look away and refusing to let them suffer in silence anymore.